Russian blockade failed. Important statements from the NATO official. Hello, the Pioneer viewers. As you know, our agenda is the Russia-Ukraine war. While the war continues on the front line, the developments in the background give important information about the course of the war. Meeting humanitarian needs in the war situations can face some difficulties. In this case, it is necessary for state parties to establish humanitarian corridors and demilitarized zones through agreements. International law and agreement stipulates this. Diplomatic means should always be priority in international relations. Where diplomacy is insufficient, weapons come into play. The economic and psychological effects of wars also put a state in a difficult situation. Economically, the increase in the cost of the war prevents the states from investing and developing. Psychology, the moral and motivation of people disappear. People experience a Great Depression. Following Russia's invasion attempt against Ukraine, we have reported news from the front many times. While the news from the front reveals the state of war, the studies and reports behind the front also provide important information about the future of the war. War processes have always been problematic for states. The winner of the war is the one who suffers less losses than the other. In all probability, both sides will suffer great losses. Recent reports shows that the Russian army continues to suffer huge losses, and if it discontinues, the Russian army may face serious problems next year. There have also been important developments regarding the grain corridor, which Russia has not agreed to. Let's take a look at the report on the Russian army and the latest developments. As the Pioneer team, we continue to report on Russia-Ukraine war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. I also read all your comments on our videos. Please continue to share your ideas about our content in the comments with us. Let's start if you are ready. The Pioneer reports. Recent reports have revealed the inadequacy of Russia's blockade in the Black Sea. Emerging reports have determined that the Russian blockade is dysfunctional. Ukrainian officials reported a huge increase in exports of agricultural goods, such as grain, through the Black Sea, despite Russia's withdrawal this year from an agreement allowing ships to pass safely through the waters. Ukraine is one of the world's largest suppliers of crops such as sunflower oil, barley, corn, and wheat, but its products have been stuck in port after Russia's full-scale invasion began in February 2022. In July 2022, Moscow and Kiev agreed to a Turkey-led United Nations deal allowing cargo ships to sail along a 33 national mile corridor in the Black Sea, through which some 310 million tons of the grain have been shipped from Ukraine. But on July 17, 2023, President Vladimir Putin said Moscow had withdrawn from the Black Sea Grain Initiative, and then Ukraine shelled the grain port of the Odessa, destroying more than 60,000 tons of grain. Some leaders in Africa, where grain is desperately needed, reacted angrily to Putin's decision. They called Putin's decision inhuman and made important international public statements. Ukraine said its Black Sea corridor had performed much better than expected, with 10 million tons of commodities, mostly grain, exported by 302 ships to 24 countries since August. Alexander Kubarkov, Ukraine's deputy prime minister, said on social media that Ukraine exports about 5 million tons of agricultural products a month through the alternative sea routes, compared to just 278,000 tons in the first month of the corridor's operation. Despite systematic attacks on ports of infrastructure, the ports accepted 337 ships that agreed to load through the Ukrainian corridor. We are grateful to our armed forces and international partners who helped us to ensure that the corridor operates in conditions of military aggression, Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Kubrakov added. Although volumes through the UN-backed corridor, which Russia has rejected, are lower than last year's export, Kiev will grow, Kubarov told the press. To sustain trade, Kiev struck a deal with Lloyd's of London and brokers Marsh McLennan to lower insurance costs for the companies seeking insurance that ship can sail routes through the war-affected country. While some ship owners are wary of using the corridor, Kubrakov said the exit looks like normal shipping as it was before the war, adding that the stronger air defenses are needed to speed up ship loading times and better ports of call. While the developments on the Ukrainian front continues, the statement made by a NATO official recently attracted great attention. According to the senior defense official on NATO's eastern border, Russia and Ukraine are already deep in a war of attrition that will continue until 2024. Qudsi Salam, permanent secretary of the Estonian Defense Army, said in an interview that Kiev and its Western partners should believe that statistics as they try to plan how the Kremlin's full-scale occupation will end. This is a war of attrition, Salam said. Russia deliberately wants us to think that they will hold and leave the war behind. He added, making it imperative that Kiev can continue to defeat Moscow's forces during what is expected to be a difficult winter. Apparently, this theory seems plausible and they are interested in it as a policy option. Salam added, referring to the skeptics of Ukraine's ability to sustain the costly struggle. Obviously, after 2 years, at least some of them may have perhaps zoomed in too closely and on the day-to-day questions and away from the strategic, he said, explaining his expectations. Every 6 months, he said, the Russians can hire 130,000 people, but what they can create in units is 40,000. Salam said these 40,000 could be used as an offensive force to seize new territories and impose Moscow's will on the occupied territories. In the remaining 90,000, new recruits each month can be used as nothing more than biomass, Salam said. They are cannon fodder. You use them once and throw them away, he said, referring to the Russia's army's meat attacks. Ukrainians are now killing or seriously wounding more than 50,000 people every half a year, Salam added. Salam said that the current attrition, the actual rate of which could be an even higher, means that Moscow is losing a fraction of its troops every 6 months, equivalent to about 37% of new recruits. Serious problems with the Russian army's human resources could lead to a shortage of troops in the coming period. In this case, the Russian army will have a very difficult time finding new human resources. It is known that the Russian army has had a very difficult time solving the problems it has faced since the beginning of the war to date. It is expected that larger problems will arise as a result of the realization of the statistics in the coming period. Moscow, on the other hand, is preparing for anxious days. Do you think that the Russian blockade in the Black Sea is insufficient? Do you think Ukraine has gained from the grain corridor? How do you interpret the Ukraine's army's counterattacks? Do you evaluate Salam's statements? Do you think that the Russian army can overcome its human resources problems? We care about your opinion. Please share it with us.